The silver-framed wedding photo felt heavier than it should. I stared at it, my fingers gripping the cool edges as if the picture could explain where everything had gone wrong. There we were, Olivia and I, on a summer afternoon 15 years ago. Her auburn hair caught the sunlight just right, and her smile had a way of making the world seem simple. Back then, I believed in everything that smile promised: trust, loyalty, love. But now, that same smile haunted me, twisting every good memory into something painful. I set the frame down, my chest tight. The construction empire I'd built from nothing demanded my focus. Every day was a whirlwind of contracts, deadlines, and decisions. Yet today, my mind refused to stay in the game, kept circling back to Olivia, her new wardrobe, the late-night meetings, the scent of an unfamiliar cologne clinging to her clothes. I had been too busy, too distracted to see it before. But now the truth was impossible to ignore. The buzz of my phone dragged me out of my thoughts. Clara, my assistant, leaned through the doorway, her expression professional but tinged with concern. "Mr. Carter, Ethan Parker is here to discuss the downtown development project. Should I let him in?" I exhaled, straightening my tie. "Send him in." The wedding photo disappeared beneath a pile of contracts, as if hiding it would erase the ache it brought. Ethan entered the room with his usual bravado, his tailored suit a bit too crisp, his watch gleaming under the office lights. He was the kind of man who thought money could smooth over anything. "John," he began, his tone oozing urgency. "We need to talk about the timeline for downtown development." "No," I said, cutting him off before he could even try. I stood, towering over him. "The timeline stays as agreed. Your financing delays don't change my schedule." He blinked, clearly unprepared for my bluntness. "But the investors. Figure it out." I interrupted, my voice cold. "You came to me because I deliver results. I suggest you focus on holding up your end of the deal." Ethan nodded quickly, his confidence deflated. He left without another word, his footsteps fading into the hallway. I sank back into my chair, feeling the familiar buzz of tension. Business was my domain. Here I was in control. But the moment I let my mind drift back to Olivia, everything unraveled. "John," a familiar voice called from the doorway. Liam Harris, my oldest friend and head of operations, walked in with a folder in hand. "The Henderson project needs your sign-off." I nodded, reaching for the pen on my desk, but then he added, "Olivia called twice this morning, too." The air felt colder. I froze, the pen hovering above the paper. What did she want? "Something about lunch plans," he said carefully, but his eyes gave away his hesitation. He was holding something back. I locked eyes with him. "How long have you known?" Liam looked down, shifting his weight. "John, I didn't want to be the one to tell you, but a couple of weeks ago, I saw Olivia at that new bistro downtown." He paused, his voice heavy. "She wasn't alone. She was with Lucas Bennett." The name hit me like a punch to the gut. Lucas Bennett was more than a casual acquaintance. He was a longtime associate in the industry, someone I had trusted in business and introduced to Olivia at countless events. Liam reached into his pocket and handed me a sleek business card. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but "If you need answers, she can help." I read the name on the card: Isabella Garcia, private investigator. A mix of emotions churned inside me. Rage, humiliation, heartbreak, but above it all was determination. I had been blind, but no more. "Thanks, Liam," I said, slipping the card into my pocket. He gave me a sympathetic nod before leaving, the door clicking shut behind him. I leaned back in my chair, the weight of everything crashing down. Memories of Olivia played in my mind like a broken reel. Her laughter at our anniversary dinner last month, the warmth of her hand in mine, the way she had always encouraged me to keep pushing for more. It was all a lie, wasn't it? She had betrayed me. My trust, my love, everything we had built together. But just as despair threatened to consume me, another thought took its place. This wasn't over. If Olivia thought she could shatter my world and walk away unscathed, she was wrong. Very wrong. Reaching for my phone, I stared at the business card in my hand. Isabella Garcia, private investigator. The bold letters seemed to mock me, a reminder of how far my life had spiraled out of control. Olivia and I had been the couple everyone admired, successful, driven, seemingly perfect. But now all I could think about were her whispers, her secrets, her betrayal. Finally, I dialed the number, the cold edge of my resolve pushing past the sting of humiliation. The phone barely rang once before a crisp voice answered. "Mr. Carter, I've been expecting your call," Isabella said. Her tone was calm, efficient, with no trace of pity. "Expecting me?" My grip on the phone tightened. "Yes," she replied. "Liam Harris reached out to me last week. He gave me enough details to start preliminary surveillance. I've already begun. Liam, of course. He always had my back, even when I wasn't ready to face the truth myself. What have you found so far?" I asked, my voice low, almost trembling. "Let's meet," she said. "I'll show you what I've got and explain how we'll proceed. Tonight at my office." The call ended quickly, her professionalism leaving no room for pleasantries. That evening, I found myself driving downtown, navigating through the city I'd built my empire in. Isabella's office was in a quiet part of town, her firm's reputation for discretion evident in its unassuming appearance. Inside, Isabella greeted me with a firm handshake and led me to a private conference room. She wasn't what I expected. Sharp-eyed, no nonsense, and with an air of unshakable confidence. I sat down, recounting every moment I could remember about Olivia's recent behavior. The late meetings, the new clothes, the excuses that felt rehearsed. Isabella listened without interruption, jotting down notes in a leather-bound notebook. When I finished, she leaned back, her expression unreadable. "It's worse than you think," she said, sliding a slim file across the table toward me. My hands hovered over the folder for a moment, unwilling to open it, as though keeping it closed would somehow preserve the crumbling illusion of my marriage. But I forced myself to look. Inside were photos, Olivia and Lucas Bennett, meeting at high-end hotels and restaurants. Her expression was animated, her hand brushing his arm as they shared a laugh. They looked comfortable, familiar, as though this wasn't something new but a pattern. "Lucas Bennett has a history," Isabella continued. "He targets successful individuals, particularly married ones, and exploits their weaknesses. It's never just about the affair. He undermines their personal and professional lives, using charm to get what he wants." My pulse quickened. "What are you saying? This isn't just personal for him?" "Exactly. Olivia and Lucas are likely working together, leveraging your connections and reputation for their gain. So far, I found evidence of unethical financial activity. Split commissions, manipulated property listings, and questionable deals that implicate your wife." The words hit me like a freight train. This wasn't just a betrayal of love. It was a betrayal of trust, of partnership, of everything I had built. "How long will it take to gather everything we need?" I asked, my voice colder now, sharpened by anger. "I'll need 3 months, give or take," Isabella said. "We'll monitor her communications, meetings, and finances. It won't be cheap, but I'll get you results." "Do it," I said without hesitation. The days that followed were a strange blur. By day, I was the dedicated businessman, overseeing projects and managing deals. By night, I was an actor playing the part of the devoted husband. I smiled at Olivia over dinner, asked about her day, and kissed her goodnight, all while the weight of her lies pressed down on me. But behind the scenes, Isabella worked tirelessly. Each evening, I received updates, photos, transcripts, reports. The evidence piled up like bricks in a wall, each one harder to ignore than the last. One evening, Isabella handed me a series of photos that twisted the knife even deeper. Olivia and Lucas, seated at an upscale hotel lounge, their heads close as they shared whispered words. Another photo showed her reaching across the table, her hand covering his. "This isn't just an affair," Isabella said, her tone grim. "Lucas is manipulating her. He's been doing this for months, using her as a pawn in his schemes. The thought of Olivia being complicit, or worse, a willing participant, made my stomach turn. But Isabella wasn't done. Look at this. She pulled out a folder filled with emails and financial documents. They've been splitting commissions on side deals, rerouting profits to hidden accounts. Some of these transactions could be illegal. The weight of it all was suffocating, but at the same time, it solidified something inside me. I had spent weeks feeling like a victim, blindsided and humiliated. But now, with each piece of evidence Isabella handed me, I felt something else rising, resolve. I want every detail, I said. No stone unturned. Isabella nodded. We'll take action when we have everything. For now, keep playing your part. The more they think you're in the dark, the more careless they'll get. I went home that night, her words echoing in my mind. Olivia greeted me at the door with her usual warm smile, but now all I saw was the mask she wore. "How was your day?" she asked, her voice sweet and unsuspecting. "Productive," I replied, leaning in to kiss her cheek. I lingered for a moment, studying her expression, searching for any sign of guilt. But she was a master of deceit, her facade flawless. As she walked away, I clenched my fists, the images of her with Lucas playing in my mind. This wasn't just about our marriage anymore. It was about my pride, my reputation, my legacy. Olivia had made her choices, and now it was time for me to make mine. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The house was quiet. Too quiet. I stood in my home office, staring down at the evidence spread across the desk. Photos, receipts, emails. Each one a dagger in the heart of the life I thought I had. I had trusted Olivia with everything, built a life around the idea that we were a team. But now, every shred of trust had been reduced to ash, burned away by her lies. The air in the room felt heavy as I worked, arranging each piece of evidence with methodical precision. It wasn't about revenge, it was about clarity. Olivia needed to see the full scope of her betrayal, to understand that every secret she'd hidden was now laid bare. The photos were damning enough. Her hand resting on Lucas's arm, the two of them seated in dimly lit hotel lounges. But it was the financial records that painted the full picture. The redirected commissions, the manipulated listings, the hidden accounts. It wasn't just an affair. It was a full-scale betrayal of everything we had built together. By the time I heard her car in the driveway, my resolve was set. This was the moment my life would change forever, and I was prepared to meet it head-on. She walked through the door with the same easy smile she'd worn for years, a mask so convincing I almost believed it myself. "Hey, John," she said, setting her bag down on the counter. "Olivia," I said calmly, the weight of my tone enough to make her pause. "Come upstairs. We need to talk." Her brow furrowed slightly, but she followed me up the stairs without protest. I led her to our bedroom, where her neatly packed suitcases sat waiting by the door. Her eyes widened, flickering between the luggage and me. "What's going on?" she asked, her voice edged with uncertainty. I turned to face her, holding her gaze. "I know everything, Olivia." She froze, the color draining from her face. "What are you talking about?" "Don't," I said, my voice steady but laced with steel. "You can save the excuses. I know about Lucas. I know about the commissions, the side deals, all of it." Her lips parted, but no words came. I reached for the folder on the dresser and opened it, revealing the damning evidence. The photos, the receipts, the emails. Each piece felt like a nail in the coffin of our marriage. "You've been lying to me for months," I continued, my voice growing colder. "Every late meeting, every excuse. You thought you were clever, but you weren't." "John," she stammered, her voice trembling. "I can explain." I held up a hand, cutting her off. "Explain what? That you've been meeting Lucas in hotels? That you've been siphoning money out of our projects? Don't insult me, Olivia. I'm done listening to lies." Her composure cracked, and tears filled her eyes. "It wasn't supposed to be like this," she said, her voice breaking. "No," I said, my tone sharp. "It wasn't. But you made your choices. And now you're going to face the consequences. Her hands shook as she reached for me, but I stepped back, shaking my head. You've lost everything, Olivia. The life we built, the trust we shared, it's gone. And I'm taking back what's mine. Her expression shifted, panic flashing across her face. What do you mean? I crossed my arms, my resolve unwavering. The Henderson Project. The deal you've been counting on to save yourself. It's mine now. I've already secured the contract. You've got nothing left. She stared at me, her tears falling freely now. John, please, she whispered. I didn't mean for it to go this far. Lucas. He manipulated me. I let out a bitter laugh, shaking my head. You think that changes anything? You let him manipulate you. You let him use you to undermine everything we built. And now you're going to pay the price. I walked to the nightstand and picked up my phone, scrolling through the messages Isabella had sent me earlier. Her latest report confirmed it all. Olivia's meetings with Lucas, the money trails, the whispers of deals that crossed the line between unethical and illegal. You've been exposed, Olivia, I said, turning the screen toward her. Isabella has everything. Photos, documents, witness statements. There's no denying it anymore. She sank onto the edge of the bed, her hands covering her face. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. But then I remembered the months of deceit, the nights I spent wondering why my wife felt like a stranger. I remembered the lies she told me, the trust she shattered, the way she made me question everything I believed about our marriage. John, she said, her voice muffled by her hands. I'm sorry. The words hung in the air, hollow and meaningless. You're not sorry, I said, my voice cold. You're just sorry you got caught. She looked up at me, her eyes red and pleading. But I had nothing left to give her. This is the end, Olivia, I said, gesturing toward the suitcases. Take your things and go. Her lips trembled, but she didn't argue. Slowly, she stood, walking toward the door with her head bowed. As she reached the threshold, she turned back to me. John, she said softly, her voice barely audible. I didn't respond. Couldn't. The door closed behind her, and I stood in the empty room, the weight of everything crashing down. The silence was deafening, but it was a silence I had chosen. And as the sun set outside the window, casting long shadows across the floor, I knew one thing for certain. This was just the beginning. The Henderson Project stood tall on the city skyline, a symbol of progress, precision, and success. It was everything Olivia and I had once dreamed of achieving together, a testament to what our partnership could have been. Now, it was something else entirely. It was mine. I walked the perimeter of the site, the hum of construction equipment filling the air. Workers moved efficiently, following the timelines I'd enforced with meticulous care. This was my empire, built brick by brick, and no one, especially not Olivia or Lucas, would tarnish it. But as I stood there, gazing up at the steel framework, I couldn't ignore the irony. This project had once been a shared vision, something Olivia and I had talked about late into the night over takeout and floor plans. Now it was a monument to her failure, a reminder of the life she had destroyed. Her professional life unraveled faster than I expected. Word spread quickly in our industry. Isabella's evidence had a way of finding its way into the right hands, or perhaps the wrong ones, depending on your perspective. Emails, bank records, even a few choice recordings. Olivia's former colleagues distanced themselves overnight, their once friendly smiles now replaced with awkward glances and half-hearted excuses. I heard from Mitch, my trusted advisor, that Olivia tried to salvage her career. She approached the same people she had worked with for years, but the doors she knocked on remained firmly shut. No one wanted to be associated with someone who had been caught manipulating deals and siphoning commissions. Lucas didn't fare much better. His arrogance had carried him through many close calls before, but this time it wasn't enough. He tried to fight back, spinning rumors about my business practices and questioning the ethics of my success. It was almost laughable. For every rumor he spread, there were a dozen voices ready to vouch for me. My reputation wasn't built on shortcuts or schemes, it was built on results. I made sure Lucas felt the weight of his actions. Every contractor who worked with him suddenly found their schedules full. Every client he pursued suddenly developed cold feet. No one wanted to associate with a man whose name was now synonymous with deceit. Watching Olivia and Lucas struggle should have been satisfying. After all, they had brought it upon themselves. But as the days went on, the victory felt hollow. I threw myself into work, expanding my company, taking on larger projects, and cementing my place as a leader in the industry. At night, though, the silence of my house was deafening. I kept telling myself this wasn't about revenge. It was about justice. Olivia and Lucas had betrayed me in ways I never thought possible. They deserved to face the consequences of their actions. But sometimes, I wondered if I was losing myself in the process. "John," Mitch said one evening as we sat in my office, reviewing the latest project reports. His voice carried a weight of concern that I wasn't used to hearing from him. "What is it?" I asked, not looking up from the blueprint in front of me. He hesitated before speaking. "You're pushing too hard. I get it, you've been through hell. But this isn't you." I leaned back in my chair, fixing him with a steady gaze. "What are you trying to say?" "You've already won," he said simply. "Olivia's career is over. Lucas is finished. Your company is thriving. What more are you trying to prove?" His words lingered in the air, and for a moment, I didn't respond. Was I trying to prove something? To who? "This isn't about proving anything," I said finally. "This is about making things right." Mitch shook his head. "Justice isn't about tearing everything down, John. It's about rebuilding." I looked away, the blueprint in front of me blurring as my mind wandered. Rebuilding. It was a nice thought, but how do you rebuild after something like this? How do you trust again when the person you thought you'd spend your life with tears it all apart? The truth was, I didn't know. But as the days turned into weeks, it became clear that my focus was shifting. The Henderson project was nearing completion, and with it came a sense of closure. Every beam, every pane of glass was a reminder of what I could achieve when I stopped looking back and started moving forward. Olivia, meanwhile, was still trying to pick up the pieces. She attempted to re-enter the real estate world, pitching herself as a consultant. But no one wanted to hire someone with her reputation. Lucas tried to help her, but his efforts were as futile as hers. They were two people drowning, and no one was willing to throw them a lifeline. I should have felt pity for them, but I didn't. They had made their choices, and now they were paying the price. One afternoon, as I stood in my office overlooking the city, my phone buzzed with a message from Isabella. "All loose ends are tied. Everything is secure on your end. Let me know if you need anything else." I stared at the message for a long moment, the weight of her words settling over me. Everything was secure. The chapter was closed. But as I set my phone down, Mitch's words came back to me. "Justice isn't about tearing everything down. It's about rebuilding." I didn't know what came next, but for the first time in months, I felt like I could start figuring it out. The view from my office window had changed. It wasn't just the skyline that looked different, though the Henderson project, now proudly emblazoned with the Carter Enterprises logo, was a striking addition to the cityscape. No, the real change was in how I saw it. This view used to represent possibility, the future Olivia and I had dreamed of building together. Now it stood as a monument to resilience, to rising from the ashes of betrayal and creating something stronger. Carter Enterprises was thriving. What had once been a growing construction firm was now a dominant force in the luxury real estate market. Every project we touched seemed to turn to gold, a testament to the hard work of my team and the relentless drive I poured into the business after everything fell apart. It wasn't just about proving something anymore. The pain that had once consumed me had transformed into a laser focus. With each success, I reclaimed a piece of myself that Olivia's betrayal had tried to steal. Her attempts to salvage her business were laughable. Every move she made seemed destined to fail. She had underestimated how quickly her name would become toxic in our industry. Colleagues she once called friends avoided her calls, and her desperation was visible to anyone who cared to look. Meanwhile, Carter Enterprises soared. A significant part of that success was thanks to Mia Johnson, my head business strategist. Mia had joined the company a few years ago, but it wasn't until the fallout with Olivia and Lucas that her brilliance truly shone. She had an uncanny ability to anticipate market trends and knew how to position our projects to attract the right investors. "John," Mia said one morning, walking into my office with a tablet in hand, "we've got a prime opportunity in the South Ridge district. High-end condos, mixed-use spaces. It's going to be the next big thing." I leaned back in my chair, nodding as she outlined the plan. Her confidence was contagious, and her knack for turning ideas into reality was unmatched. "Let's make it happen," I said. Mia smiled, her sharp green eyes lighting up. "Already on it." She left the office, and I turned back to the window, letting her words linger. Every project she pitched wasn't just another deal. It was a step toward something bigger, a legacy that no one could take away. But as much as I focused on the future, there were still moments when the past crept in. I heard whispers about Olivia. She had tried to partner with smaller firms, pitching herself as a consultant. None of it stuck. Her reputation as someone who cut corners and played dirty was too deeply ingrained now. And Lucas? He was nowhere to be seen. Rumor had it, he'd relocated, leaving behind a trail of burnt bridges and unfinished projects. Part of me thought I'd feel more satisfaction knowing they'd failed so spectacularly. But the truth was, their downfall didn't define my success. Carter Enterprises wasn't a response to their betrayal. It was a testament to what I could achieve without them. "Mr. Carter," Clara said, poking her head into my office. "The mayor's office called. They'd like you to attend the ribbon-cutting ceremony for the Henderson project next week." I nodded, a small smile playing at the corners of my lips. Let them know I'll be there. The Henderson project had become a symbol of everything I stood for now. It wasn't just a building. It was proof that no matter how hard life tried to knock me down, I would always rise. Later that evening, Mia and I sat in the conference room, poring over plans for the next big venture. She spread out blueprints and renderings, her enthusiasm palpable. "You're doing something incredible here, John," she said, glancing up at me. "This company, it's more than just real estate. It's setting a new standard." Her words hit me harder than I expected. She was right. Carter Enterprises had become more than a business. It was a reflection of everything I valued: integrity, resilience, and a commitment to excellence. As the night wore on, Mia leaned back in her chair, her expression thoughtful. "Do you ever regret it?" I looked at her, surprised by the question. "Regret what?" "Everything with Olivia," she said softly. "What happened? How it ended." I considered her words carefully. There were moments when the memory of Olivia's betrayal still stung, like a wound that hadn't fully healed. But regret? No. "I don't regret seeing the truth," I said finally. "It hurt, but it also set me free. I wouldn't be here. This company wouldn't be here if I hadn't faced it." Mia nodded, a small smile playing on her lips. "That's what I thought." After she left, I sat alone in the conference room, the plans for South Ridge spread out before me. It was late, and the city lights cast a warm glow through the windows. I thought about the lessons I'd learned through it all. Trust is fragile. Loyalty is rare. But strength? Strength comes from within. Olivia and Lucas had underestimated me. They thought their betrayal would break me, but it had only made me stronger. As I looked out over the city, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't known in months. Carter Enterprises was more than a company. It was a legacy, and with every new venture, every groundbreaking ceremony, I was building something no one could tear down. This was my empire, and it was unshakable. The hum of success was a strange sound. Steady, relentless, almost comforting. Carter Enterprises had become a juggernaut, dominating the luxury real estate market and redefining what success looked like. But as I sat in my office, reviewing the latest expansion plans, I couldn't shake the thought that this wasn't just a company anymore. It was something much bigger. Every decision I made, every deal I signed, was rooted in a single, unshakable principle: trust. Without it, everything crumbles. I had learned that lesson the hard way, and I swore I would never allow myself to be blindsided again. Mia Johnson was one of the few people I trusted implicitly. She wasn't just my head strategist anymore. She was my business partner, the backbone of every major decision we made. She had proven her loyalty time and again, and her insight was invaluable. "John," she said one afternoon, stepping into my office with a confident smile. "The numbers from the South Ridge project are in. We're ahead of schedule and under budget." I looked up from the report I was reviewing, a rare smile tugging at the corners of my mouth. "That's what I like to hear. Let's keep the momentum going." She nodded, but there was something in her expression. Pride, maybe, or satisfaction. "You've built something incredible here," she said, her voice soft but sincere. "It wasn't just me," I replied, glancing at the framed blueprint of the Henderson project on the wall. "It's the people I've surrounded myself with." And that was the truth. Carter Enterprises wasn't just a reflection of my hard work. It was a testament to the power of loyalty, integrity, and resilience. Not everyone shared those values, though. Olivia, for one, had shown me just how destructive betrayal could be. Her downfall had been swift and brutal. The industry that once embraced her now turned its back, leaving her to grapple with the consequences of her actions. I heard whispers about her from time to time. She was still trying to salvage her reputation, but every move she made seemed to backfire. The charm that had once opened doors now fell flat, and her name had become a cautionary tale. Lucas Bennett had fared even worse. He'd left the industry altogether, unable to rebuild after his schemes were exposed. I didn't keep tabs on him, I didn't need to. His absence from the business world was confirmation enough that he'd finally run out of tricks. But I never let my guard down. My success had made me a target, and I knew there were always people waiting for an opportunity to take me down. That's why I made it a point to surround myself with people I could trust. People like Mia and my core team. "Have you thought about the international markets?" Mia asked one evening as we reviewed our latest expansion plans. "Some," I admitted. "But we need to solidify our hold here before we start branching out too far." She nodded thoughtfully, her sharp green eyes scanning the data on the screen. "We'll do it when the time is right." That was the thing about Mia. She always thought 3 steps ahead, anticipating challenges before they arose. With her by my side, I felt confident that Carter Enterprises could handle anything. As the weeks went on, our influence continued to grow. We moved into new markets, secured high-profile partnerships, and launched projects that made headlines. The name Carter Enterprises became synonymous with power, precision, and success. But for all the accolades, I never forgot where it started or why. There were nights when I sat alone in my office, the city lights casting a warm glow through the windows. I'd think about Olivia, about the life we'd built together and the way it all fell apart. Her betrayal had been devastating, but in a way, it had also been clarifying. It taught me who I could trust and who I couldn't. It showed me the importance of surrounding myself with people who shared my values, people who were as committed to success as I was. "John," Mitch said one evening as he dropped by my office, "you've built an empire here, but don't forget to enjoy it." I chuckled, shaking my head. "I'm not sure I know how to do that." "Maybe it's time to learn," he said with a grin. I watched him leave, his words echoing in my mind. Enjoy it. Could I? The truth was, I wasn't sure I knew what that meant anymore. My focus had been on building, growing, expanding, on proving that betrayal couldn't break me. But maybe Mitch was right. Maybe it was time to find out what came next. As I turned back to the reports on my desk, a quiet resolve settled over me. Carter Enterprises was more than a company. It was a legacy, a symbol of what could be achieved through hard work, integrity, and determination. And while the lessons of the past would always guide me, I was ready to start thinking about the future. 5 years is a long time. Long enough to change the landscape of a city. Long enough to build an empire. Long enough to turn the bitter taste of betrayal into the sweet satisfaction of triumph. As I looked out over the sprawling skyline, I saw a reflection of everything Carter Enterprises had become. Towers bearing our name dotted cities around the world, symbols of luxury and innovation. The South Ridge Project, once just an ambitious idea, was now a landmark in the heart of the city. And the Henderson Project? That had become the blueprint for excellence, a reminder of how far I'd come. Olivia and Lucas? Distant memories now. Their names only came up in industry gossip, cautionary tales about what happens when ambition overrides integrity. I didn't think about them often, but when I did, it was with a detached sense of clarity. They hadn't destroyed me. In fact, they had unknowingly laid the foundation for my greatest success. "Mia," I said, turning away from the window as she walked into my office, tablet in hand. Her presence was as steady as ever. Over the years, our partnership had evolved into something almost seamless. We could anticipate each other's thoughts, finishing each other's sentences during strategy meetings or negotiations. "We finalized the contracts for the Dubai project," she said, a smile of accomplishment on her face. "This one's going to be a game changer, John." I nodded, my own excitement tempered by the quiet confidence I'd developed over the years. "It's incredible to think how far we've come." She laughed softly, setting the tablet down on my desk. 5 years ago, we were just trying to stabilize the company after everything. She didn't need to say their names. We both knew who she meant. "I guess betrayal has a way of teaching you who you can count on," I said, leaning back in my chair. Mia's smile softened. "And what you're capable of." Her words hung in the air, and for a moment, we both let the weight of them settle. The truth was, I owed a lot of my success to the lessons I'd learned during those dark days. Olivia and Lucas's betrayal had forced me to reevaluate everything. My relationships, my priorities, my own resilience. I had emerged from the ashes sharper, stronger, and more focused than ever. "Mia, do you ever think about what comes next?" I asked, breaking the silence. She raised an eyebrow, a hint of curiosity in her expression. "What do you mean?" "We've built an empire," I said, gesturing to the reports and blueprints scattered across my desk. "But empires don't last unless you plan for the future. What's the legacy we leave behind?" She tilted her head thoughtfully. "You've already started building that legacy, John. Carter Enterprises isn't just a company. It's a symbol. People look at what you've done, and they see what's possible." Her words struck a chord. Carter Enterprises had become more than I ever imagined. It wasn't just about luxury real estate or ambitious projects. It was about the principles that guided every decision: integrity, trust, and the relentless pursuit of excellence. As we prepared for the next big expansion, I felt a sense of satisfaction that went beyond profits or accolades. I had taken the pain of betrayal and turned it into something unshakable. Every building, every project, every success was a testament to that transformation. Later that evening, as the office quieted down, I found myself standing by the window again, the city lights stretching out before me. My thoughts drifted back to those early days after Olivia's betrayal, when every decision felt like a battle, every step forward a struggle. I thought about Mitch's advice back then: justice isn't about tearing everything down, it's about rebuilding. He was right. Rebuilding wasn't just about the business. It was about rebuilding myself, my faith in others, my vision for the future. A knock at the door pulled me from my thoughts. "John," Mia said, stepping into the room. "The team's ready for the presentation tomorrow. Everything's in place." I turned to face her, a sense of gratitude washing over me. "Good. Let's make it count." As she left, I glanced at the framed blueprint of the Henderson project on the wall. It wasn't just a building. It was a reminder of everything I had overcome. 5 years ago, my world had fallen apart. But from the wreckage, I had built something stronger than I ever thought possible. Carter Enterprises wasn't just a business anymore. It was a legacy. And the best part? This was only the beginning. The skyline stretched endlessly before me, a glittering sea of ambition and achievement. From my office, high above the city, I could see the towers that bore the Carter Enterprises name. Each one was more than just steel and glass. It was a symbol of what could be achieved through resilience, determination, and unwavering vision. This wasn't the life I had imagined for myself all those years ago. Back then, I had dreamed of building something with Olivia, a shared legacy rooted in partnership and trust. But the reality was far different, and far better. The betrayal that once threatened to destroy me had instead become the foundation for something extraordinary. Carter Enterprises was a global powerhouse now. Our projects spanned continents, from luxury high-rises in Dubai to cutting-edge mixed-use developments in Tokyo. We didn't just follow trends, we set them. Innovation and excellence weren't just our goals, they were our standards. And at the heart of it all was Mia Johnson. "John," Mia's voice called from the doorway, her confident stride bringing her into my office. She was the perfect partner. Her sharp business acumen and unwavering loyalty had been instrumental in turning Carter Enterprises into the industry leader it was today. Over the years, our working relationship had evolved into something more profound, a bond built on mutual respect and trust. "We've got the investors ready in the conference room," she said, a small smile playing on her lips. "They're excited to hear what we've got planned next." I nodded, grabbing my notes and following her toward the door. As we walked, I couldn't help but feel a sense of pride in what we'd accomplished together. "Mia," I said, glancing at her, "did you ever think we'd get this far?" She laughed softly, shaking her head. "Not like this, but I knew you had it in you." Her words lingered, a quiet reminder of how far I had come. There was a time when I questioned everything, my judgment, my worth, my ability to trust. But those doubts had been replaced with clarity and confidence. Olivia and Lucas? They were nothing more than distant memories now. Their names didn't come up in meetings or conversations. They had been erased from the industry, their actions leaving them stranded on the fringes of relevance. At first, I thought forgetting them would take effort, but it didn't. Their betrayal had been the catalyst for something greater, and their absence was merely a footnote in the story of my success. As Mia and I stepped into the conference room, I took a moment to survey the gathered investors. Their faces were a mix of curiosity and admiration, each one eager to align themselves with Carter Enterprises. "Good afternoon," I began, my voice steady and confident. "Thank you for being here. Today we're going to discuss the future, not just of Carter Enterprises, but of the industry as a whole." The presentation was seamless, a testament to the work Mia and I had put in over the years. We outlined bold new projects, innovative technologies, and strategies that would keep us ahead of the competition. By the time we finished, the room buzzed with excitement. As the investors filed out, each one offering words of praise and promises of partnership, I turned to Mia. "Another win," she said, her smile widening. "Another step forward," I replied. Back in my office, I found myself drawn to the window once again. The city stretched out before me, its energy and potential mirroring my own. Carter Enterprises wasn't just a company. It was a legacy. It represented the strength to overcome, the vision to create, and the character to lead. Every project we completed, every milestone we reached, was a testament to the journey I had taken from betrayal to triumph. I thought about the lessons I had learned along the way. The importance of trust, the power of resilience, and the value of surrounding yourself with people who share your vision. "John?" Mia said from the doorway, pulling me from my thoughts. "Yes," I asked, turning to face her. "You've done something incredible here," she said simply. "You've shown the world what's possible." Her words stayed with me long after she left. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the city in hues of gold and crimson, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't known in years. The past was behind me, the scars it left serving only as reminders of the strength I'd gained. And the future? The future was mine to shape. Carter Enterprises stood tall, an unshakable force built on the lessons of the past and the promise of tomorrow. And as I turned away from the window, ready to face whatever came next, I knew one thing for certain. The best was yet to come.